Welcome everyone to another episode of the Drunken Dice Podcast. I'm Alex, joined by my co-host Jim and Peter. Uh, it's going to be another good, fun, free-form one, unless Jim has found some random stuff for us to react to. But before we get into any of that, how is everyone doing, and what's everyone drinking?
I'm doing good. I'm drinking Macallan 12 year.
Good.
Nice.
Yep. It's just delicious scotch, single malt.
I am drinking Elijah Craig, which is bourbon. This is a bottle that Alex gave me, actually.
Yes,
we are both drinking alcohol Alex gave us.
Yes.
But that one Peter got specifically because I couldn't take the rest of the bottle back on a plane.
Yeah.
I was up there for work. So I was like, I don't want this to go to waste. Take it, Peter. It's good.
Yep.
So, and I am drinking the remainder of that bottle of red wine from Saturday.
Oh, fantastic.
And as you're talking about the pre-show, they got their invitation to Castle Ravenloft this week in our Curse of Strahd game. So I am diving into that book because I have to know a lot now.
Yes. Because you fucked up.
Not fucked up, it's just a really big part of the book.
Yep.
And we've made the official transition to you're now in Barovia to you are now part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I was always part of it, but
I wasn't. And I will leave after I kill Strahd.
Possible.
With any way I can.
Just steal his voice one syllable at a time.
I mean, I don't have to do it one syllable at a time. I've heard him talk for a minute, so I can do his voice. Because that was something I did. Random encounter table, going up against one berserker, and we had him, I think, down pretty good on his health.
Oh, and you guys were destroying him.
Yeah.
Because he was recklessing because he's a berserker and not doing very much, and you all were just slaughtering him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then I said something along the lines of, you fucked up, but in Strahd's voice. And he realized he fucked up.
And then he died.
Very quickly.
And then Strahd complimented him on his impression about 12 hours later.
Indeed. Which was unnerving.
Yes, good, that is.
Not a fan of that.
No.
You know.
No, not really. No.
Mainly because I know the sword I have, which I knew was cursed, I now know Strahd gave me, and that's even worse.
Yep.
Like having a cursed item in Barovia, yeah, that makes sense. Having a cursed item that Strahd gave you in Barovia, oh no, I fucked up.
Yeah, especially with that weapon. If I was a real dick, I'd just vibe in, have Strahd hit you for 1 point of damage and go, ha 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 ha. Have fun.
I mean, only as long as he stays within range of me that I can do a melee attack. If he flies up where I can't hit him, it basically ends because I can't hit him.
But as long as he stays in a spot that you could chase him to go, it still counts on there.
If I can actually still hit him. If he is like 20 feet in the air, but within 30 feet of me, it doesn't matter. I can't hit him. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Also, it does require a saving throw. It's not just automatic.
That is true.
So, I know what my weapon does. You think you can throw something at me I haven't looked at before in some book or on a website?
Unless I completely make something up, there's no way.
I know.
Yeah.
I will roleplay it as if my character does, because my character doesn't know, but...
Yes, because luckily you don't metagame, which is nice. Unlike Marion. Does the Raven have a 2 intelligence? I'm not telling you that. Tell me what you're gonna do. But does he have a 2, like... Tell me what you're gonna do. I'm not telling you that.
Yeah. I at least have the benefit of not DMing D&D. yet.
That's fair. That's why with Marion at that point, I was just like, can she roll a nature check to see if she knows if it would have enough intelligence for this? Yeah, she could do that. Okay, there we go. We're moving forward, everyone.
Yep.
We don't have to just like sit here and grind against each other for the next 10 minutes.
All right. Did you have anything crazy for us, Jim, to react to?
Just the idea of a homebrew monster that I alluded to at the end of the last podcast. So saw this. I can't remember which Facebook D&D group it was. Probably like Tiamat's Tavern or something like that. Someone had the idea to do a homebrew slime that's an Ooblex slime.
Ooblex slime.
Interesting.
So if you don't know what Ooblex is, you can make it with like water and a bunch of cornstarch. And if you slowly put your hand into it, it acts like a liquid. But if you hit it, it reacts like a solid.
It's a non-Newtonian fluid.
Yep. So their idea for this Ooblex slime was that essentially Peter would actually get to hit it because the lower you roll, the better, instead of the higher you roll, the better. Because the harder you hit it, the more it hardens.
Finally, a monster I can actually kill.
Which then at this time he will be rolling crits on crits on crits.
That's true.
Yeah, 20 on 20 on 20. Nothing.
That is
for a second I was like, is this basically just taking us for a single monster back to like Thaco? Kind of is, but y'all don't know what Thaco is. Yeah. I did not hear you, Alex.
You didn't hear me? Is my mic being...
Just that one phrase. I heard the next... You didn't hear me. So.
Huh. It's weird. Why?
It is weird. Anyway, Thaco is like a first, second edition thing that is probably good. It's gone. It's just math. It's more math. More complicated math. Alex is playing with his mic.
Getting it closer.
Peter
doesn't sound really weird.
I hear you fine, so...
Yeah, it was just that one phrase. I just couldn't... I saw your mouth move. I was like, I didn't hear you.
Yeah,
I don't trust it.
We are piping through Discord a little bit, so the noise cancellation sometimes catches it. So
fair enough. Anyway, so that was the like base homebrew that I saw, and I didn't like it. So I want your opinion on my idea of the homebrew because I think I do better. So my idea for this Ooblex slime was you hit and don't hit with AC like normal because it's based in 5th edition. They did this in 5th edition, and let's not like really mess everything up and confuse everyone. But I figure it would work better if it was all based on your damage. So you like if it has an AC of 15, say like Peter, you rolled a 16, you hit, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now you roll your damage. And if you roll like maximum damage, it just like it's immune to that damage because it hardens so much that you just didn't hurt it. But if you do like minimum damage, so you roll a 1 on your die, then it takes the full damage. And if you hit like somewhere in the middle, like on a D8, like a 5, then it's like resistant to the damage.
that seems more reasonable.
Yeah, it seemed like it was so convoluted at first. It would take some like kind of reworking, retooling. But I like the idea of you have like a window for the AC, like you can't go too low and you can't go too high.
Mm-hmm.
Then just above this certain thing. That is interesting.
It is interesting. I just figure knowing players who think they know everything already, and then like they roll a 20, they're like, I crit, and I'm rolling all these dice. I'm just like, nope, not for this monster. because it doesn't do anything with then like start arguments and stuff. And
It
it's
could
not
be
about
rather
that.
comical.
It could be, but
It depends on the table. If you
Depends
have
on the
fun
table.
people at the table, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
If you have nothing, if you have like a rules lawyer, someone who hates fun, it
Yeah.
won't be.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure everyone has either played with or knows a rules lawyer. Like, that's not how that works. Can you just trust me as your DM to like run a fun encounter, please? And that I know the rules better than you?
There's certain times that you go like, wait a minute. If you go, wait, doesn't it work like this way? If you're not just going, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, wait. Because there's certain things that if I've seen people do, like how run zombies wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Unless they
No.
clarify, oh, I'm not doing that, you'd be like, oh, okay. But if like certain things have mechanics that is off, I feel like it's not just being a rules lawyer or dick. If you're just like, wait a
No.
minute.
Like, for sure, like, if I don't know. You said zombies, and I just think of the like Constitution
Mm-hmm.
saving throws to see if they stay alive. Like there is like a point of being like a player, especially like another DM who's a player or GM who's a player, being like, wait, don't they need to make that Constitution saving throw just to like help the DM out, make sure they didn't forget something of being like, oh no, we're not doing that for like these zombies are different. Oh, okay, cool. But there's also people that go, well, I get to do this now, or I do this, and you're like, wait, no, that's not how this works. Yes, it is. Like, no, it's not.
It really goes into what you're doing. Like we did this on Saturday because Strahd zombies are different than regular zombies.
Yeah.
That it's just a quick clarification, and we all got on with the session, not trying
and
to be a dick about it.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Was just kind of implicitly making. It was just like, yeah, of course, like other players can be like, oh wait, is this how it works, and get a clarification, move on. But I've had players who would be like, no, I rolled a 20, and according to the rule book, a 20 is a crit. Like, that's not how it works with this thing. Or actually following the rules as you're supposed to, and like, oh no, you made an attack, combat started. Well, don't I get another attack next? I rolled high initiative. No, you got your surprise attack. It's done. Move on. Like,
people just really want to find a way to insert themselves into certain things. Like, you really get this on certain type of people, especially those who want to be power gamers who think they know everything.
Yeah.
And then you as a DM, like, okay, I will now build things around this. Oh, you're trying to do a flying build where you're not going to get hit by anyone? This just means things will all have range, or there will be a lot of flying things now.
Yep.
Because like, unlike you, the GM can throw all sorts of different things at you.
Yeah. I mean, on like our Friday game, you fly a bit, and I haven't thrown too many like other flying things at you, but almost everything has a ranged option now.
Mm-hmm.
Like for when they want to try to hit you as opposed to the people on the ground. Oh, they throw a javelin or a crossbow or a bow or a cantrip or something.
And I'm also not a dick about my flight either. Like, it was an inherent part of my class that came on at 14th level.
Yeah.
Which is really big different than trying to play an Aarakocra with a polearm.
Yeah. I don't know who you're referencing to here.
Oh, you don't?
No, I do. What'll be amazing is how he will somehow get a wolf reference into an Aarakocra.
It'll happen. I'm not sure how, but it will happen.
I feel bad because he's so excited about this character, and I don't want to destroy that spark of excitement in him. But I'm just wondering, like, this is not going to work out the way you think it is. In fact, you're probably going to get real pissed at this.
Yeah, I mean, I think also whatever party he is playing it with needs to know what he's doing before they choose, because they're going to need another front line.
Yeah, you're a barbarian who's trying to avoid being hit. That's against your entire job.
Right.
Like, your entire job is to soak up the damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Which really good transitions into what is fun classes we like to play, and what's some that we tend to stick away from? I'm throwing another question in there, too.
That's fair.
What do you, as players, we're talking specifically in 5e here, so what do you tend to gravitate toward, and what do you stay away from?
So, I just have to throw this out there that I've only played a few classes, so I don't have, like, a good idea of, like, all of them. So, I can't speak to all of it.
Oh, yeah. Like, I haven't played every class either, but I think I've played enough that I have a gist of a bunch.
If you count NPCs that I've controlled, I've played every class.
That's fair.
I mean, you have rolled, so you know how they work.
Yeah.
So, I have not. I played, Bard, Rogue, Monk, Warlock, Sorcerer.
Then let's start with you, Peter.
Out of those?
Or, yeah, out of the ones you've played, which one would you want to play again? If those are the only ones that you could pick again, which would be the first one that you would jump to?
I don't know, honestly, because I only played the Sorcerer
riveting content, Peter. Thank you for all your
Hey, you asked me, and I told you that I did not have a whole lot to add here.
Well, Peter, you think about that. Alex, I think you've probably played the widest variety of player characters.
I have probably
NPC characters. So
weird that I came into D&D after you, but I've probably played more than you because you've been stuck as a DM for so long.
And because I don't count a bunch of the things I've played because when I joined a bajillion online games that only are one session and we're level 3, I'm I didn't really play that character.
Yeah. I played enough where I've actually taken levels and things on there.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite class by far is Sorcerer. Which I know probably will raise some eyebrows from some people because they're usually labeled as the weird bastard children of the arcane classes. But I love metamagic. The nonsense and fun that I can do with metamagic makes it so worth it.
I mean, that's kind of if you're not using metamagic as a sorcerer, you're missing out on what it means to be a sorcerer. Really?
Yeah, you're not. I hate to say you're not playing it right because play however you want, but that is what separates the sorcerer from the other things. Wizards have such a variety. Sorcerers don't get the choice, but they get to do wacky stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I can haste 2 people at the same time? Screw you, any other buffing class. You can't do that.
Yep.
Oh, I now have my 2 squishy people running around as giant apes on the battlefield because I twin polymorphed them. We're having a good time. Oh, I took, Sunburst, and I quicken it, so now I have 2 massive radiant damage things in my same turn.
Mm-hmm.
There's all sorts of fun things you can do with that.
Or even the metamagic from Tasha's, where you can change the damage type on a spell.
Oh, yes.
Or you can turn a fireball into an acid ball or a lightning ball or whatever.
Yeah. We did this last one, and I just started throwing acid balls and wall of acid around.
Which, honestly, it makes up for a sorcerer's lack of, options, which you can only do so much because it takes sorcery points. But, when you remember from the last time you fought this particular demon or devil that it's immune to fire damage and you have a bunch of fire spells, well, now you can actually do something, which is kind of important.
Very, very much so. Because otherwise, you're mostly useless.
Like Peter.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
But that's
especially
rules.
with all of the sorcerer classes Xanathar's on, that the sorcerers now get spell lists on top of just the normal ones, which would be fun to see for the Draconic Soul and the Wild Magic, because they are the two most underpowered classes of the sorcerers, in my opinion, just because of that's what 6 to 8 less spells that they get compared to the other ones, which is a huge difference. And some of them, like the Clockwork Soul one, gets some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a subclass that sounds really fun that I'd like to play.
Yeah, I'm guessing in 5.5 they'll also get their spell list. The Wild Magic and Dragon Ancestry ones.
Actually, like Wild Magic, because Wild Magic is like the quintessential sorcerer, in my opinion. Like, it is really fun.
Yeah. I mean,
well, quintessential is like it is the most famous of 5th edition just because of the Wild Magic surging.
Yeah.
Quintessential is probably the Draconic Bloodline for like lore reasons, but
I mean they both have their place lore wise.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I'm hoping in 5.5 which I'm just referring to 5.5. It's the supposed player handbook that will come out, I think, late next year, something like that, or 2024. That is an update to the whole system, but compatible with everything before it. Just in case that someone else hadn't heard this thing, and I'm just referencing to 5.5. I'm hoping in 5.5 they redo the Wild Magic list and either expand it a little bit, which would be nice. Have more and varied options, and the sorcerers get their, those two sorcerer subclasses get their spell list, so they're not disadvantaged with spells, like compared to the other sorcerers. So,
because as soon as you get those spell lists, one of the biggest drawbacks of a sorcerer gets wiped away, and it's equally viable and all sorts of things. And that I always tend toward magic classes anyway, just because spellcasting, especially upper level spellcasting, is just fun, and I love doing it. But
yeah,
if I have, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's fun, but also at higher level, there's like more options to it in 5th edition, where it in previous editions and other things like Pathfinder, it feels like martial classes have a bit more than some basic stuff that they have in 5th edition.
Yeah.
So, like in 5th edition, especially, like high level spellcasters just have more you can do.
Which is why if you're a DM and you have martial classes and you're going to upper levels, give your martial classes some awesome magic items, so they feel like they're not just being outclassed. Because it will be a pain, but with a fighter has like a crazy sword with his 4 attacks per thing, he's gonna feel really fun and good.
That, but I mean, I also think with martial classes, like you kind of have to go like outside raw and let them try different things in combat that may not be quite an attack or just a grapple or a shove or something like that. Let them try different things to, affect the battle in a different way outside of just like I hit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, great. You hit again and again and again. Even with this magic weapon, but like, if they want to describe a way they're doing something or trying to like mold the battle more to their to their advantage, like give it a shot, because it gives them more options than like I attack or I hold on to them or I push them.
Yeah, especially since they just watched their friend warp the space-time continuum next to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they need, let them do something fun, because whatever nonsense they come up with will not be as game-breaking as whatever magic spell.
Right.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
like if you're using a long sword, normally two-handed, and you tell me with like one of your many attacks that you get as a fighter, you want to like grab some of the dirt and throw it up into someone's eyes. You know what? Yeah, like let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Like because I mean, they might be like blinded for a turn or something like that, and it's not a permanent or it's not a long condition like blind deafness spell, but like
Right.
it could sway things a little bit in your favor, and like
Mhm.
you're giving up an attack for it, so like yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah. Give it a shot, see if you hit, and then I'd probably make him do a Constitution save or something like that.
Probably like a dex save to see if they can avoid it or something like that.
That too, or
Or
something we can
something.
just
I don't know.
tank it.
We haven't particularly gone through that example. That was just one of the things
Yeah.
I've seen in other games, and I went, oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, but so if I do generally go toward a martial class, like my favorite martial class is a paladin, which is still
Yes.
technically a caster, but let's be honest, paladin spell slots are used for smites
Yeah.
for most of them.
Yeah.
When you're in combat, it's smites. Outside of combat, you have a little more flexibility.
I love that when I'm like in the game that hopefully gets back when our friends actually get finished doing their house. That I have an Oath of Vengeance Paladin. None of the spells that I've taken have anything in combat, because I will not be doing anything in combat that revolves to magic.
It's all smite.
All
Smite.
Especially that I now have a Drake Warden as a friend,
Yes.
which that was bold.
There's potentially a second one we can have as a friend too.
That is
It's just
true.
too hurt to follow us.
That
But
is
if I
true.
if I still got a spell slot or something like that after the big fight, who's to say I don't use cure wounds on it?
Going into that, Jim, what class do you like to play? And we'll go in the ones we like to avoid afterward. Or no interest in playing in Peter's case.
No, yeah. I mean, all of them as long as I get to be a player. You know, it's hard to answer because I'm normally the last person in a party to make their character
Mhm.
because and it's probably as metagaming as I get in that I look at the party composition when I'm joining a party and go, what does the party need?
Yeah.
And I make what the party needs. I depending on the group, I'm enjoying like my bard I'm playing, because I just learned Shatter, so I can do something in combat when my buffs and debuffs aren't working, or there are too many enemies to like really make a difference with like a Bane or a blindness deafness, or something like that. But like I quite enjoy having a character that is purely basically non-combat focused. Like he can talk his way through any situation because he has I'm a College of Eloquence bard, so I have expertise in performance, persuasion, and deception, and with deception and persuasion, if I roll anything less than like a 9 or lower, I just count it as a 10. And so with all of that at like level 4, the minimum I can roll for those two things is like an 18, which is crazy. Like, but like that's his whole that's his build. That's why I do most of the talking for our party with that character, because
yeah, you should be.
That's the one thing I'm good at when it comes to combat. Like, I can throw around some healing words. Yeah. I can shatter a large group if I need to, but most of my spell slots go to like healing word, Bane. Like I've used blindness, deafness before. I've had to start reaching out to things other than concentration spells because I have a lot of concentration. I didn't realize that, and I was like, I can't. Like, I haven't used heroism yet because, one, by the time I would normally cast it, people are too far away from me to like touch them, and then on top of that, like, I'm holding Bane on two or three other creatures, so I'm just like, well, can't concentrate on more than one thing, so I will not cast that spell.
Mm-hmm.
But like I really enjoy, like, I don't know, just playing that role of being the non-combat person. At the same time, I love the monk because I like hitting things very quickly and fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's really not too many classes I don't have an interest in playing, but I think that's the question that's easier for me to answer is what aren't I interested in playing? Because like I'm happy to take whatever position the party needs, because I enjoy the mix of classes because I've gotten to play them in small bits as NPCs or enemies or allies or something like that to your guys' parties. But like outside of that, it's like I just want to play more of these. I just want to play it more. But there are a couple I'm like I just don't really care.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, Peter, we've given you more than enough time to think about it. We demand an answer.
We demand an answer. Well, you'll get one. I think the character that I've had like the most versatility playing with, and I really like having options, is my bard. You got jack of all trades, you got expertise and all that. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that you can do, and I think I went with College of Lore for that character, and so I just had just have lots and lots and lots of options that I can do. Like Jim, that character is not particularly built for combat. He's primarily buffing and debuffing.
Which, frankly, is the goal of a bard.
Which is what the bard is supposed to do.
So what, College of Swords?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the bard is something that I really do like playing, but I have a soft spot for the bard because it's my first character. Outside of that, I'm really enjoying the warlock that I made. It might also just be the weird combination of personality and backstory and all of this other weird shit that goes together to make Aeneas. Like, he's such a strange person. But I have
to say, like, the characters that were made for the Curse of Strahd game were good characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even the grief we give Matt. For an Oath of Vengeance paladin and all that, I like his character and all that. How he's...
Yeah.
And how he's kind of grappling with trying to be good in a world that just wants to beat him over the head.
Yeah.
And with a party that doesn't care about goodness.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are the ones that I've really, really enjoyed doing. I've played a monk, really enjoyed that too.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's less about the class, and it's more like the concept that I can build around that particular class. Mm-hmm. So for me, a lot of the fun more comes from what character can I build into this? Because regardless of the class, like, I'm sure I could make a fighter fun for myself to play, even though that's probably the one that I have least interest in doing. But like, as long as I've got a character, I like the character, I'm good with almost anything. But like, as I said, Bard and Warlock are probably the ones that I like out of the ones that I played the most. So, big circle, but you got your answer.
Yeah, I do have to say, like, I think for me, with like going into ones I don't have interest in, it really depends on the game and the style it is. Like I'm enjoying my Artificer that I'm playing, but depending on the campaign, I think I would hate it because I wouldn't be able to get to do all the fun things that an Artificer does. Like, if I was playing that character in Curse of Strahd, I would hate it because I don't get to utilize a lot of the cool benefits that he gets. A certain class that I kind of see that, like, I don't know that I would want to is depending on, like, a druid. Just certain ones about that, like, I like a lot of it, but I guess it would, like, really depend on the campaign of that. It just how I like to make some characters. I guess it just didn't. Druid doesn't really fit too much with that one. Or
That's fair.
like fighter is one I would rather literally do any other martial one than a fighter. Like I don't want to at all with that. Um, like I want to play a ranger, especially with some of the new ones like the Drake Warden or a Gloomstalker. I would love to give a shot because those would be really fun. And I think I might just have a bad taste in my mouth from Monk that I don't really want to play one
Fair
because
enough.
bad things tend to happen to me if I'm a monk, and I'm tired of it.
Bad things just happen to me all the time. It doesn't matter what character, so I just have to get over it.
That's accurate. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like, the only one that I'm just like, probably one of the only ones that I just don't like have a desire to play is Artificer. Like, there's just no desire for me to play that class, like at all. Like,
How so? What about it like keeps it against it?
maybe it's just because it's like such a well, it's unique in that like they're not really like they're spellcasters, but not like really spellcasters. So much of their stuff is about you
Yeah.
know all the special things they can do. They're also not like martial, and so it's like it's just such a niche class that I'm like, eh.
And like where I was saying before, if I wasn't in a campaign that has like just magic items everywhere,
Mm,
I would probably hate it. But seeing as how I have two horns of Valhalla and other random crap, I have multiple. I have two immovable rods. I have a homebrewed movable rod that I get to mess around with. I have just all of the things that I get to mess with, which
yeah.
is making being an artificer really fun in that.
Who's running this?
My buddy Wes, you'll
Okay,
meet him.
I'm just like, how do you have two horns of Valhalla? Like, what?
There's different types of horns of Valhalla. I have a brass and a silver. So one is actually better than the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, still, but
It's a bold move for sure.
I also
Alex
spent
can,
like
single-handedly with his Horns of Valhalla just summon enemies and just destroy dungeons on his own.
which was also fun because they were all berserkers.
Yeah.
But I also spent like 20,000 gold pieces for both of these. These were not ones that were just found in a horde.
Okay,
I had to spend
that's
Yeah.
a lot of gold to get them.
that's different.
It is different. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, Artificers don't really care all that much about. Otherwise, I mean, like Paladin, I could, but like it's not on the top of my list to play. Like I would rather either go full martial with like a barbarian or a fighter, or more spellcasting with a cleric, because like with a cleric you can still have a high almost 20 AC at like level 1
Mhm.
and still do decent, good melee damage. And with like a forge cleric, which is one of the classes I play, I can still get like what was it, like branding smite or whatever.
I think you get extra
Searing
attack
Smite
too
is.
in that class as well. Not all
Yeah.
clerics get extra attack.
Yeah, so it's like, I can get all this stuff through other classes, but also have like more than just like, well, my spell slots are smites. Like I can do a smiting thing, but I also can throw up like spiritual guardians and just wreck a bunch of shit. Like Marion's Encounter by just casting spiritual guardians and just destroying everyone.
I'm looking forward to when we get farther on in that one,
Mhm.
when my auras become more used, that I get to be a tank that's also a support class. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, all of you are better at your saving throws. Let's do this sort of thing. Especially if you get to play a paladin with another tank in the party, that tank will love you more than anyone else because you're going to make their life so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of agree with Peter though. I think it's just more about like outside of mechanically, like I find way more fun in making the character than
Yeah.
the class.
Yeah, definitely. I love wacky characters. I think we all agree, no matter what we've all been saying here, if we find a character concept that seems like fun, we'll
Yeah.
find whatever class we can fit it into and go from there.
Yeah, like I've got a whole bunch. Like if I find a character that I think would be great as a fighter, I'll do it. Like I'll for sure do it. Like I've got a bunch of different character concepts that are floating around. Haven't picked a class for them. Like if I sit down and work it out and that's what it is, that's what's gonna be, and I'll make it as obnoxious as possible. Not really. I'll make it fun.
It's my job. Is the obnoxious as
No,
possible.
your job for sure is the obnoxious.
Your job is the like a crazy obnoxious, like a chaotic obnoxiousness. Peter's is just obnoxious in just it being what it is, and like it doesn't like Peter's obnoxious doesn't mess with everyone else's obnoxious.
No, it's just its own thing.
Like Aeneas is obnoxious, but it's just kind of like he's just there, and then my obnoxious builds on top of that.
Yep. Aeneas is such a fun character. I mean, I enjoy playing all of my characters, but Aeneas has been quite a joy to play recently.
Yeah. But like Alex, you have admitted that you are like an agent of chaos in most
Yeah, I know.
like that is the obnoxiousness you get into of like here's some pure chaos just to add to this party. Aeneas's obnoxiousness in Peter's character isn't an agent of chaos.
Like, my favorite thing, like, the one character I kind of fleshed out a bit more and want to play, my character based off Trevor Belmont, where I take a whip, who am partially rogue, partially paladin, and just smite with reach, and sneak attack on there. I'm like, oh yeah, here's an extra 3d6 and an extra 2d8 on top of it. Oh, I had advantage and I critted. I get to double everything here. Have fun with this.
I would very much like to see this character in play. I have no idea. I don't know that I would want to be the DM on the receiving end of it the first time it gets played, but I would love to see it
No
played.
one wants to be the DM on the receiving end of that.
I just am upset because I feel like he would be really fun to play with Acer and Aeneas.
Oh,
I mean, we can always bring Aeneas back. Like he's not. You know.
Acer and if Curse of Strahd goes the way I want it to, where we defeat Strahd and I get to leave Barovia and take Aeneas with me, which is my goal. Partially because it'll make Aeneas uncomfortable, and also because I've decided he is my best friend right now, and he is coming with me. Without consideration of his own feelings.
Aeneas does not know what to think of this at the present moment.
Yeah, but like assuming that can happen, then Aeneas and Acer would be out in like normal Faerun in this like Sword Coast or the Forgotten Realms, all that. So like there could be another campaign with them.
I just love the idea of this monster hunter with an undead friend. It's just like, and it's hilariously similar to like Castlevania, who is a order of vampire hunters whose best friend is the son of fucking Dracula. So
here's my best friend, Alucard. Wait, what?
Oh god, I'm turning into Belmont.
One of the best lines in the show.
Yeah, like I found like how could I make that work because I loved that series. And like, all right, we definitely need to find a way that I could add damage to it. So paladin makes sense, but I don't want to do all paladin. What about some rogue? Be kind of like because be that like on the run sort of thing. I'm not like a knight in shining armor type of one. I'd be like, I'm like this could work. Rogue paladin definitely could work.
Yeah.
Because I thought about maybe if how fighter could work with it. but I think I went more to Paladin because I still get an extra attack, and I get the extra damage on the smites, and going in the flavor.
I think
that I'm
smites
an,
particularly help
yeah.
with the Trevor Belmont
Yeah.
feel.
And going into the flare that I'm like an undead monster hunter, the radiant damage on there definitely makes sense with it.
Yeah, but action surge.
That is the thing. That is like, this would be useful.
That'd be a lot of fun. And it depends on what kind of fighter, because if you're like Battle Master, you could do so many like weird things with the maneuvers, with your sneak attacks and all that. Like
A lot of things that you can do with that.
Tripping attack.
Yeah, which makes sense with the whip on top of it. Like,
yeah. It could work. It could all work.
I just love the thing. Like when I first brought this out for a one shot to test it out, I'm like, "You're using a whip as your main weapon?" Yes, I am. I am going to make this D4 weapon the scariest thing you've ever seen.
Honestly, like those underused weapons, I want to find a better way to use them and make them like more serviceable. Like, so as a rogue, why use a dagger when you can take a short sword?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no point to it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's actually one thing that either they do in 5.5 or it'd be a fun homebrew thing. Because so many weapons are literally the exact same, but a different name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is like, what's the point at that point? Just make, this is the D8 weapon, this is the D10 weapon, because people are just going to go on that they're allowed to use.
Yeah.
But like, with a dagger, if you could find a way to like, it gives bonus damage to like a backstab.
Yeah, kind of like how Skyrim does it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, that if you are...
Yeah. Either that or like you could potentially do it, especially with like sneak attack, where like it automatically does like, I mean, I guess it's just like kind of +1 to damage, not necessarily to hit or something like that, but like with the idea that like, because you're using a dagger, you're finding like you're particularly hitting the weak points in the armor, so you're doing just a little bit more of like base damage, even on minimum or something like that. I don't know.
I was thinking about it that you would get bonus to damage rolls, like some like extra dice to roll if you were flanking. Because if you're flanking, you're hitting the back of it on there. So you could do, like, you add an extra, say, since it's a d4, you get to add an extra 2d4 of damage if you flank someone.
Yeah. Or just, I mean, you could do, I mean, because this is a homebrew we're talking about,
Yeah.
like, you could even have, like, different status effects for different weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, do a bleeding for a like dagger or something like that, which, of course, like, yes, any slashing or piercing damage could cause bleeding, but, like, as a specific thing to, like, weaken them or do, like, a certain number of turns for or like a con save to against bleeding would be interesting.
Yeah.
Or it makes it very specific. Like, an enemy has to be engaged with like 2 or more other enemies. So like you can, with the flavor, like you're getting in there that they're distracted enough that you can get that weak spot to cause that.
Which is basically the idea behind sneak attack to begin with, but like, I don't know, like daggers are underused. But like daggers were actually like weapons that were used quite often, because how, like, oh, you knock a knight down in full plate armor, well, you pull out the dagger to get between the pieces of armor to
get under the gorget, and there you go.
Yeah.
Or right under the arm.
Right in the armpit.
Something with like a dagger on there. If you attack an enemy that's knocked prone, and it's an auto crit with a dagger.
Sure.
Because that's exactly what a dagger was used for.
Yeah.
So you get automatic sneak attack and auto crit. Because that would fit.
Yeah. Yeah, like, And of course, I'm going, well, is that balanced and all that? But like, I don't
How
know.
often would that really come up? Unless you had like a battle master. If you had that with like a battle master fighter who was like, I'm going to be trip and attack all day, you stab this fool.
I mean, yes, but can't you also knock people prone through shoves?
Yeah, but he's also in action. To shove, it's not Baldur's Gate 3. So you'd have to shove him and then find a way to stab him.
But if you're, what I'm saying, in a party, you have the barbarian or the fighter running around or paladin or cleric or whatever, just shoving people and you're just following behind, auto-critting.
But that still takes up one of your character's actions, and they still have a chance to save against it.
It does. Well, and a shove is using an attack action, so it would be an attack. So if you had multi-attack, you could shove and stab.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I think about though. Is like, well, balance wise, and like,
Yeah.
Well, since rogues don't get extra attack. If a fighter did that, they wouldn't get the extra sneak attack damage. They would just crit with a D4 weapon.
That's fair. That's true.
Like a paladin might be the most dangerous doing that, and then
Smite with it.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, you got to use that resource too, because it's not like sneak attack where it's unlimited.
Yeah.
Smites are a limited
Smite,
resource.
Stab in the armpit. Wow.
Yeah. But also, like, I don't know, because we're just talking dagger right now. Like,
Yeah.
If you do something special for like one type of weapon, you have to do something special for like all of the weapons to make the choice matter.
Different ones on there, like
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, not everything gets that.
Yeah.
Like each one is unique in some way.
And I would only ever do it for a weapon that does a D6 or less damage. If you do a D8, a D10, or a D12, you're already fine enough on damage that I probably wouldn't do something with it.
Yeah, but something they could do could be not damage based.
That's true.
Like a parry on a longsword or something like that. Not damage based. You have the option whether you want to use it one-handed or two-handed. But maybe you have a defensive use for it, or something different.
Yeah.
Just to make all the weapons feel unique, because there's some classes that aren't going to use, like a barbarian isn't going to use a dagger or a whip. But why are they punished for using the weapons that are meant for them, and these like big martial weapons?
And there's an argument to be had too that how much we do this before it becomes 4th edition, and there's just way too many things. And I'm like, all right, we've gone too far.
Previous edition, yeah. Like, I mean, that's the thing with homebrew. I mean, like all of the rules are optional in Dungeons and Dragons. They're a guideline to make
to facilitate a game.
Yeah, and you can change any of the rules you want. I'm pretty sure it even says that in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Oh yeah, it definitely does.
But at what point are you changing so much that it is no longer Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition? You're just making your own thing. That's why I've like when they make like they've made like a Pokemon 5th edition version, and it's like, okay, but you're basically making your own thing, and it feels limited. It's limiting what people do in the Pokemon series and that IP, because you're trying to force it into this super simplified 5th edition, or like stuff like that, where I'm just like, okay, like, I mean, that's great that you made it like 5th edition, but
yeah,
you could just do something else. I know it's more complicated another way, but like the Pokemon Adventure Tabletop United or whatever, like the bit I've played of it, like it actually seems interesting.
I don't think
because
I've played
it's
that
not
one.
5th edition. Well, you made a character for that one.
Did
once.
I? Okay.
Yes.
So, well, I like
I
how
wasn't
we
sure which one we did.
Like we played the Star Trek Adventures, because I just don't think that would feel right using a 5th edition metric.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
No, it would. There are some things from 5th edition that I sometimes migrate over.
Sure.
Just because there's just some things that like I need a perception roll, or I need something like that. It's like, I'm not going to ask you for a major stat. I'm just going to have you roll a flat d20 and we'll see what happens. Like, I do pull stuff just because there's some things where it's less like, this isn't a character-based thing, but I still need to see what happens.
Based on other systems, that the most commonly used thing is perception checks. That just makes so much sense.
Yeah, because
that it's weird when you have a system that doesn't innately have one.
Yeah, because in Star Trek, like, you could use like an insight plus like whatever a particular character's looking at the moment, like science or medicine or whatever. And I do that. So like when someone's doing it's like you're working on a medical problem and you're puttering away. Okay, give me an insight plus medicine check. Why? Well, you'll find out. Like, that's my version of a perception check. But like when you're out in the middle, like, hey, we just beamed down to a planet and we're wandering around, then sometimes I just have people roll a flat d20, which is kind of a perception check, but also the way that I do it is it's also kind of a random encounter thing of like, you see this thing, it's out there, I have the note, it's in, like, there's this thing in the woods, you could see it and then you could start something else, but if you don't see it, it doesn't matter, like, it's just out there.
Which is why I love when you forget that I have a scanner on my face.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
They're like, oh, you wouldn't be able to see this, I'm scanning it.
Well,
with my face tricorder.
What happens most often is I'm like, you guys don't really have your equipment with you. And you're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, damn it, you have a tricorder on your face. Shit.
Like, I am the equipment.
Yeah. So like, it's like, you don't have any weapons. Yeah, I do. Fuck.
Like, about being an agent of chaos in every game.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys don't have this. Yes, I do. Come on.
Exactly.
Like,
I put you in a situation where you're without. No, you haven't.
I did this to myself. This was before Liberated Borg were really a thing.
Yes.
And I just kind of, I took some homebrew stats that I found and we kind of put it together.
I don't even feel like this character's weird. I came up with the concept and Peter essentially built it statistically for me.
Yeah, I did. And it's slightly broken. It works, but it's slightly broken.
Also, why I'm just stuck as an engineer and I don't try to take other major things in consideration.
Nope, because you can do all sorts of stuff.
I break my world, but I stay in my lane.
Mostly, yeah.
But my lane is broken.
Yes, that's why you have Adao.
And I've got her onto my side now. And now we're breaking the lane together.
Yep.
Because I am enabling Adao.
Yes, Alex figured out the way to the side character's heart.
Enabling.
Yes. It's like,
support.
I want to be in charge and I want to do things. Okay, I'm still in charge, but we can try all the shit that you want to try. She's totally on his side now. That's how that works. So
can you do this in 2 hours? I think so. Good. You have an hour and a half. Make it done. Make it so.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And
I just kick her off the bridge.
Yes, you do.
Which
was also a really hilarious moment, just because you were trying to do an icebreaker with the other characters, because you're just like, I want to do a roleplay moment. Let's do a roleplay moment, and so you like started something.
The other players needed to like open up a little bit because they were being way too quiet. So I'm like, fine, you want to not do this? I will bring my youth ministry experience and start bringing icebreaker questions into this. Like, fine, we can do this. I've cracked more stubborn children. It's fine. We will get you to talk.
You kicked Ada off the bridge, and we went back to illegally modifying the ship. Which I cannot wait for someone actually up and higher in Starfleet to find out all the shit that we've done to that ship.
I mean, once you guys... It really depends on what happens. But once you guys get back, your ship is going to get a thorough once-over, and who knows what's going to happen.
Court-martial.
Court-martials for everybody. No. Might be funny, but no.
I think it would be funny if they waltz me into court-martial. I think that's when probably Federation security, some intelligence would waltz in. You just go, hey, nope, hey, we got this one. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, Admiral Greer walks in the room. It's like, no, this is our guy now. What? You can't have him. What? I have permission from the president. Damn it. Like,
hey, before we were trying to recruit you, now you don't have a choice. Damn it! Okay, well, this is my life now.
It's this or New Zealand.
All right, we're doing this. I'm pretty sure your XO is aware that you to the ship, but as long as the ship works and does what we need it to do, I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't tell me.
The captain is not aware.
The captain is not aware. The XO is aware and is just like, the less I know, the better.
I wonder how the captain's not aware, because I don't exactly hide it. I'm just like, I'm making the ship better.
Because so the thing with the captain stays away from you.
Asked. Like, he hasn't looked into it, and he hasn't looked into what you're doing. He's just like, the ship works. It's like, I mean, it does.
And I've asked and gotten some less than ideal answers of like, do you really want to know? And I'm like, no, just make sure it stays working and does what we need it to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm aware, and I'm turning a blind eye to this.
We don't do anything that doesn't work or improve the ship.
And I know that, and that's why I'm turning a blind eye to it.
Also, like the one time how we discovered something. Oh yeah, I was going through all the files, and I found this in yours. This is weird. And I never got asked to follow up on why I was doing that.
Nope.
Because didn't I find like how Ensign Ricky was doing that? I went through, I'm like, oh yeah, your name Google alert went off, and this popped up for me.
I don't remember what that was.
It was the start of the inciting incident on the Ensign Ricky investigation. Because I was going through something.
You found Lieutenant Dingus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was going through
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yeah, you found the guy who did it.
Yeah, because like, hey, I saw this, and then I started like, I'm going to go through all these other records. I'm including your personal one, because I think that's how I found out he was a Betazoid. And I'm just like...
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think the entire crew knows at this point. Like, it was a thing where it's like, I'm going to keep this secret, and I was like, I mean, you can try. It's not really... I mean, people don't usually do that, but you could try.
Because for a while...
The entire crew knows.
No.
Unless Starfleet Intelligence gave out a pamphlet.
No, they didn't. Well,
it should just be
in
me,
the crew.
Jim,
what I mean is like the
Daniel.
command staff. I don't mean like ADAW. ADAW doesn't.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
even then,
I don't know if your mom's character.
I don't know. The science officer might not know. The doctor knows.
The doctor knows.
Yeah, because he told him.
Sure.
Yeah, I know because I've been his best friend, and he told me.
The only people he thinks knows is Jim and Nathaniel. He has no idea that I know.
Yeah, I don't think he does. I mean, the Admiral knows at this point.
That's because Brahms just called him out on it.
Yeah.
Which I think it would be hilarious that he makes his ground announcement.
It's still one of those moments that I just can't wrap my head around. And I think we've talked about it before. But it was like you're trying to call this guy on his bluff. He's not bluffing.
Yeah.
I just can't wait for him to try to eventually make this announcement. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm like, oh yeah, I've known since I got on the ship. I've known since we got back to the station.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm like, and I can't wait for him to be like, well, how do you know this? You're talking to the guy who actively hacks Starfleet. You don't think I can get to your personnel file?
Yeah, that's less protected by a lot.
Yeah.
On the ship that I actively have my nanites helping me with.
You just keep sticking those nanites in anything you can. You're like, can I put my nanites in here? Nanites.
I only want to do it to give me an increase so I have a better chance of success, because I do things that I need. Like, I'm doing this.
Shit that is hard to succeed at anyway. So you're like, can I use my nanites?
But also, they're going to look at a ship like, why are there so many Borg nanites? Oh, those are mine. Why are you doing this? And I would try to play it off so I don't die. I need help with it.
Yeah, I
Zoom,
mean the
zoom,
the
zoom.
one
They're
time
like,
that the
they're like my
nanites,
red blood vessels.
yeah, the one time the nanites did not work, just so that our listeners do know that I have stopped it
Yes,
a few
you definitely have.
times, was when you were hacking into Starfleet intelligence. Like,
And I try to be careful outside of the ship because on the ship, I basically use them as my own little like personal like bots to just
which is
make
kind of what they
everyone's
are.
life easier. Yeah, exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Like, I'm not trying to break the galaxy one computer terminal at a time. I just want the ship to work better.
Yeah,
I mean,
And especially since now we're dealing with Borg shit, I'm trying to Borg-proof our ship. And when people ask me that is what, if I have to directly answer the question, that is what I'm doing.
I mean there is always the possibility, just throwing it out there, that if you do face the Borg and they do manage to get you, then your
Definitely
nanites could be
easier.
a problem.
And which is why we talked, and I've activated a kill switch. If I'm ever captured before I'm assimilated, I am basically the Star Trek equivalent of a cyanide tablet in my tooth for me and all my stuff.
Yeah. So, I'm just saying there are downsides to having this.
Yes.
So it's not like it's only a boon. Bad shit.
Oh
can
no,
happen
it definitely
to you,
could be bad.
character death, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is basically immune to anything telepathic based, but he can get computer viruses. So
That is true. That is
We
true.
have to deal with the flu. You have to deal with malware.
download free
Luckily,
version
I
of
have a
malware
really
bytes.
good antivirus system.
Yeah, I mean, cyber warfare is a thing in the future. We don't talk about it much in Star Trek, which is weird, but it's a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely
It's-
not used enough.
I mean, it's a thing now in.
Oh, I
current
know for
warfare.
sure it's a thing now.
So-
I'm saying if it's
so,
a thing
I
now,
know-
it's definitely a
I
thing
know.
then.
That's what I'm
Isn't-
saying. Like, it's a thing now in current warfare, and like they're just like, oh no, not in Star Trek. It's like it would for sure be in
Yeah,
Star Trek.
this
Isn't it like one of the reasons why like they've written off as like the original series being so low tech? Is they tried that was a counter to all the cyber warfare.
This is my theory that I told you.
That was yours? Okay, that was your
this
theory.
Is not there is no actual canonical explanation for this. This is
I
my
love
pet,
this theory.
This
though.
is my pet theory because I like making the universe work with what we've already seen. I don't like, oh, we're just going to retcon everything. Why? Make it work. Do the gymnastics. Those are fun.
Yeah.
But my theory with how why we have the tech differences in the original series as compared to Enterprise and Next Generation and such. Because if you look at like Enterprise, you're like, oh look, it looks very similar to how our stuff looks. And you got buttons and monitors, and it looks somewhat high tech. Obviously, everyone's like, well, it's because of the difference in production value. It's like, yeah, well, we know that. But
we
how do you
know
make
that.
it? How do you make it
Production
work
value
in
of
universe? How does it
now
make sense?
with a budget versus no budget in the freaking 60s, 70s. Yeah.
I mean, they did have
Makes sense.
a budget in the 60s, like all of these, detractors going around, including Kurtzman and Goldsman for some reason, who say that like the original series had cardboard sets. That is absolutely not true. Go read the books about the creation of the show. There were obviously some things made out of cardboard and paper mache because they were cheap, but the main sets weren't. Anyway, the theory that I have about why the tech is different, it actually pulls from Battlestar Galactica, the new reboot. If you've seen that, there's a whole bit in the first episode where they make a really, really big deal about how the Galactica is like this ancient piece of shit, and none of its systems are integrated. Because it's an old warship from when they were fighting the Cylons, which are, cybernetic organisms, and they, do all sorts of stuff. But then the Cylons attack, and then all of these newfangled ships go down because all of their systems are integrated. So one system gets hacked, and they can get into everything. The one thing that the Galactica had was, oh, great, you hacked into the toilets. Well, you're in the toilets. You can't get into life support and the warp core. Like, you're just in the toilets. Good job.
In the Star Trek one, it was the post-Romulan War,
Yeah,
right?
and for Star Trek, my explanation is the Romulan War, because it's like the Romulans are pretty heavy on deception and pretty heavy on like just like we're gonna get you without having to like dirty our hands. And so you better believe that cyber warfare was one of the main things in the Romulan War. And so my explanation is because of the Romulan War, Starfleet started isolating systems left, right, and center, and that's why you still have like paper printouts and these big old boxy things, because it's like everything's isolated. Like systems on the bridge are not the same as the ones in engineering, because heaven forbid someone gets onto one of those and starts wrecking things. You could just like flick a switch, it's done. How many times in the original series have we seen like, oh no, they've diverted control to auxiliary control and now the bridge is useless? Well, there's a reason for that, right?
I love that theory.
That is my theory.
So much sense.
No one else talks about it, which kind of annoys me. I mean, obviously it's because it's my theory and I like my own stuff, but also because it's like you can actually explain why the original series is the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to just be like, production values. Like, make stuff work. It's more fun that way. I'm more of a fan of people who like get in the sandbox and play in the sandbox instead of getting in the sandbox and then calling a bulldozer to just, make a new hole where the sandbox was, which is generally what people are doing now. Some of the sand's the same at the end, but it's a totally different box now.
It's a totally different box.
So like, for instance, Strange New Worlds, which I will say, out of all of the new Star Trek shows that I've seen, aside from Lower Decks is still my favorite out of the new Trek stuff. Which I know for most people who actually know my opinions about Star Trek would find that weird, but there's reasons. But Strange New Worlds actually...
It doesn't mess with the canon.
It doesn't... The thing with... Okay, since you brought it up, I'll say it. The Lower Decks, the big thing about it is that they clearly love the universe that they're in. Mm-hmm. They really, really, really do. And you can tell with all the stupid references, but they're not like, oh, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Like, oh, look, here's our Star Trek cred. It's just, here's this thing. It's in the universe. And now you get to see it again. There you go. Like, I mean, they do deep cuts, like pull random shit from the animated series. But
obviously, I've not watched much of the new Trek. But that one clip you showed me of the first part of Picard season 2 of Q making himself old, I thought was brilliant and hilarious.
Oh yeah, there's some stuff that they do that's really, really good and really, really well done. But like, Lower Decks is the only one that actually like loves the universe that it is unabashedly. Like, it's not like, oh well, old Star Trek was problematic. It's just like, Star Trek, we're just gonna do Star Trek, and we hope you enjoy your Star Trek with your Star Trek. Let's do more Star Trek. Like, that's why I like Lower Decks. They just don't care.
My favorite is Star Trek hot takes. Like, Star Trek was never like this. I don't know what you just said, but I guarantee you're probably wrong.
Yeah, my favorite one right now that's floating around is like, Star Trek was always woke. Well, you're just trying to like tell people who call it woke that their opinion doesn't matter, and you're just using taglines for no reason. It's like, you actually have to understand why people are saying what they're saying, and if you understand what they're saying, yeah, they're kind of right. Because generally when people are saying, oh, it's woke, what they mean is like, it wasn't cringy and preachy and just irritating. Like, yeah, they said things that I don't always agree with in old Star Trek. That's fine. But
probably say is true, but Star Trek has always been political.
It's always been political. It just hasn't been what people mean when they say political anymore. Because they mean a very specific sort of in your face activism that browbeats you, and Star Trek didn't browbeat you. It brought it up and it was like, hey, this is a thing. You should think about this. But they never were like, it's like one of my favorite examples is Plato's Stepchildren, the interracial kiss, right? It was a really, really big deal. But the thing about it is that they did it, but they didn't linger on it. It just happened. They didn't like pause and have Kirk look at the camera and go, African American women are so amazing, and they should be treated like real people because they are real people. They didn't have to have him do that; he just did it. And that's the difference. It's not that they didn't do things; it's just that they didn't dwell on them as much. Now there are episodes where they totally do. Like, I'm not saying like carte blanche Star Trek always did like a little bit less preachy. There are definitely some preachy episodes. Watch TNG season 1. But
which nobody appreciated my reference last Tuesday when he made a planet that essentially was Farpoint, and everyone ignored me.
I don't think I saw your chat, but yeah. So I forget what we were saying about stuff. You got me on a Star Trek tangent. And
I know, it's fun watching, like, let's watch Peter see blood. Star Trek.
yeah.
Ah!
Well, it's just new Star Trek. Like, yeah. Oh,
We
I was
also have
saying about Strange New Worlds, like the way that they retcon stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, Strange New Worlds looks worlds better than Discovery in terms of how it's doing its redesign, because it captures more of the feel of what the original show was going for look wise.
The better budget and technology.
Yeah. So, like, I appreciate what they're doing more. I think that you could have been a lot closer. I know that a lot of people don't really like it, but when Enterprise did its two-parter in the Mirror Universe and they brought back all of the old 60s stuff, like, it really depends on how you light it and how you use it and how you treat it. So if you treat it like it's cardboard and you treat it like it's campy, the audience is going to think that it's cardboard and it's campy. But if you, like, there's shots in Enterprise where they take, like, the brand new CGI, like, ooh, this is the latest 2003 tech Enterprise NX class, and then they have the 1960 ship just blow it to smithereens, and on top of that have it just completely wreck an entire fleet of newly designed CGI alien starships. The thing feels dangerous. Like, is it a little dorky looking? Yeah. But if the way that you handle some of this stuff, you can do it. Like, there's a reason why people watch, like, you know, the new Star Wars movies, and they're like, hey, it feels like Star Wars because it looks like Star Wars. Like, you watch Mandalorian, and they bring back all the old tech. You're like, hey, I recognize that. This has the same look.
Yep.
It's why a lot of people complained about the prequels. I don't. I like what they did, but there was a reason why people complained. It doesn't feel lived in like the original trilogy. There's a certain environment that a franchise or a show is supposed to have, and I just find it a little odd that we don't work. Like, yeah, update, you know, the original series so that it's like clean up some of the lines on the walls, because some of them you can see the painter's tape and stuff in the background if you look closely, or the duct tape that's like covering the seams between the drywall.
My biggest thing that annoyed is the Klingon changing design of them, when the Klingon design was one of the coolest alien looks in all of Star Trek.
Yeah, that is an exceptionally sore topic for me. Is the Klingons in
Because
Discovery?
they looked so good up until Discovery. It doesn't matter like what actor or actress you put in there, they always made them look really, really cool.
Yeah,
And it was always
and part of it was like the Klingons had this really, really well-defined culture, and the look that they had just fit with it. Like, they're space Vikings.
Yeah,
That's what they are. They're space Vikings. But then when they went with Discovery, they just had this like whole anti-mammalian thing, which was just weird. Like, nothing could have hair. Like, almost all of the aliens in season 1 of Discovery have no hair, which is just very, very strange.
I just love that they tried to change the batleth to like, this is defensive, so we switched the blades in. So you made it good for stabbing yourself.
Yeah. It's like, hey, let me stab myself in the stomach while I'm trying to attack you.
Like, I understand.
Yeah,
trying
so
to
you're
change
going to
the
go to
batleth.
Stovokor
Batleth is stupid.
because you disemboweled yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a dishonorable death.
I know who I was talking about. Someone had a topic of, this is the Klingons just cheating the system, because the batleth is so awkward and unwieldy they made it the honor duel weapon. So when they fought someone else who didn't know how to use it, they were always going to wipe the floor with them because no one else knew how to use it properly.
That is a completely fair explanation for why the Bailiff is the way it is. Let's make the most awkward weapon to use. Fair enough. That works. So, yeah. Yeah, Star Trek has all sorts of interesting things that I can go on and on and on and on about, but everybody knows that.
Indeed.
We can break the game, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you also enable me in that one too, Jim, so you share some blame.
Yeah. I just love playing in games where like the universe is alive. And that's how, like the game, like Jim, your world, like the things that we do affect it. Like or like, oh, we did this thing. You remember that city that you went to? Yeah, their friends didn't like what you did, and now they're coming after you. Oh. Well, shit.
Yeah.
It's like things have consequences, and I really like when role-playing games do that. So, like the way, like we talked about last session, the way that I run my Star Trek game, like things you do affect everything. It's like it doesn't just affect your space station. Like, word gets out, people know things.
I'm looking forward to you all too in Barovia, because we've had a lot of like the setups and start of things, but now a few decisions have been made, and things are gonna start going in on each other.
Yep.
And more and more things are gonna keep happening because you still haven't even met a huge chunk of like the majority players in Barovia.
Yeah.
Which is also cool that there's so much other stuff that you guys haven't seen yet that is going to possibly have a big difference or not at all, depending what you all choose.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about like playing all these different games is like you can go back and redo like Curse of Strahd and just do something totally different and pick a new route and have an entirely different experience. Like you wouldn't want to do them back to back because then you know all the tips and tricks, but
there's still so much that you can do that it'd be really wild to do one back to back, just changing things up and how it and the decisions that players make. Like I'm going to you have a lot of stuff going on, but as Jim knows, there's now a nagging problem in the background that will have to come to fruition at some point, or someone's getting real screwed.
Yep. So, I just like when universes...
You shouldn't have rolled really bad on that one, Jim.
I shouldn't have rolled poorly. It's random. Okay.
You just had to beat 2 other people. You didn't. Technically 3.
Which roll was this?
How I started the game, that everyone had to roll, and the 2 lowest had to make a nice, good saving throw.
Oh.
And Jim lost 2 hit points permanently.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I succeeded that one.
You did. So you were just like, that was annoying.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still think it's funny. Aeneas wakes up like like having a nightmare, and it's like everyone's first question: you sleep?
I mean, it's a fair question.
It is a fair question. Like being in a reborn, I think is the name of the race. You don't need to sleep, breathe, or eat.
And also, you know what it is, so I don't feel bad talking about it, and you guys don't metagame. But I'm just gonna love the difference going there. Just this hag trying to do this, I'm like, he's not asleep. What the hell's going on? Bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, that, again, it's come up several times. This is one of the reasons I like playing Aeneas. He's just out there. Like, he's just so strange. It was just Peter scrolling through the list of races and like, well, that looks fun. Like I said, once I create a character concept, then I roll with it. So it's like,
and it works so well because you happen to create from a race that was specifically designed for Barovia. In fact, Rickman's Guide to Ravenloft.
Yep.
Like that was straight from the Barovia dummy play.
So it makes total sense that I am in that plane.
Yep. Which is why when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. That sounds great.
Yep. And then I created a completely ridiculous backstory. Well, actually, it's not that ridiculous. It's actually fairly minor. There's not a whole lot there. There's just like...
Your backstory was I was killed at some point.
Yeah, I died and I came back.
That was your backstory. Your backstory was the end of most people's journeys.
Yeah.
I was killed, and then I wasn't. And it's been a while.
Unfortunately, yes, but I lived.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with that. But I enjoy having that because then you can like throw stuff out about Aeneas's backstory with characters that would have known him when he was, actually alive.
And gave you another personal thing to the story too, so you don't have the motivation of I want to get out. You're now motivated by revenge from these people who literally conquered your land and murdered everyone.
Yeah, because originally, like, the way that I built the character was like, Aeneas just wants to know what the hell happened to him. Like, clearly I was dead, and I'm alive. I want to know what happened, and whoever killed me, I want to give them a bad day. Like, that was the entire motivation for the character that I built. And now he's learning stuff about what actually happened. Like, yeah, you were one of the guys who was fighting against Strahd when Strahd showed up. Like you were leading like a rebellion or something. Well, you were leading. Like,
I think it was more like, it was more like, it wasn't even a rebellion. Like, we don't want to be conquered, thank you. We're gonna fight.
Yeah, it was just rising up against it.
Yeah.
And then the Strahd's like henchman just straight up
Rahadin.
Yeah, Rahadin just straight up murders him.
Which I also then love that you also then encountered the one person not in Strahd's court who had remembered that.
Yep.
He was like, oh crap, that was you.
Yep.
You got murdered.
To which Aeneas was like, really? Who did it?
You know who did it. The guy who murders all of us. He is, like, his main defining feat is he's a murdery bastard.
Yep. It was actually
he talks polite and murders. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah. It was a pretty fun moment because it was just Jim's character and my character just in a room talking to an elf. And
it was a good moment.
We got all of this lore dump of figuring out what this character... Well, not a huge lore dump, just a little bit of information about where Aeneas came from. It was just kind of fun. So
I'd be very surprised if something happens again, that if certain people in the parties start to suspect that just the two people who were with the Dusk Elves are starting to get, like, haunted and cursed. Because at first I thought people were like, you stayed with them and you all were having trouble. What did they do to you?
Yeah, but our party didn't pick up on that.
Nope.
So.
And I had enough things going on. That what I was going to leave that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they went through the Feast of St. Andrew, and it was a lot.
Yep. It was... Many shatters were used that night.
Yeah, a lot of shatters.
It was one of, like, this is the whole thing. You have the shatters, like, I want you guys to keep using this. This was your shatter one.
Yep. Bad
guys. I don't think shatter will be as effective the rest of the time we play, but I'm glad you had a good session where it got to be used really, really well.
Yep. I mean, it's outside of Vicious Mockery. It's literally my only damaging spell.
And also, I would give that as a tip to any people running games. Do not do things to completely nerf spells just because you know they're damaging. Let your players get some full effects of things every now and then. Otherwise, they're going to feel a little cheapened.
Yeah, like every once in a while, have your people cluster so that your sorcerer can cast Fireball.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, this one with, like, the St. Andrew's Feast. The goal of this encounter wasn't for you to kill everything. It was for Matt to get the bones back. Mm-hmm. So, of course, while you're just there, shatter him away.
Yeah.
And all the strong people were just sitting there watching.
Yep.
It's accurate.
And we were just hoping that they didn't come into the fight. At least I
Pretty much.
Because I would have been
It was
toast.
kind of a you guys stay there. We're gonna get into this church and close the door, and you just stay out there, okay?
I've also, I don't know, like some of the different like mythos and how like vampires work and how Strahd has to follow some rules, but not all of them because he like kind of controls Barovia has been fun to play around with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's just everywhere you go, there's a different myth or legend, and no one really kind of knows what to believe, and what the actual full extent of his powers are.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Gosh, we've gone all over the place on this.
We have, especially after we got about an hour in, we started going on our
It
massive
started
tangent.
happening before the hour mark.
Most like, yeah, you're right.
We've been at this for like an hour and a half. I think
this is a good time to call it. On there,
Yeah.
we had some fun. We talk about specific classes early on, and then we go off the rails. It's great. The off the rail stuff is generally the best anyway.
Of course.
So I've been Alex.
I'm still Jim. I'm not stopping being Jim.
And I'm Peter. At least last I checked.
If he hasn't been replaced by his reptilian clone yet. And this has been
more human than he is now.
And that has been an episode of the Drunken Dice Podcast.